Can you talk a little bit about how it's informed your work, especially?
Well, radical Judaism has a lot of interpretations right there. And just so that there's no misunderstanding, we're not talking about Meir Kahana here, because there have been too many misunderstandings when it comes to that kind of shit. I'm not, a radical Zionist or anything like that. I'm talking about a radical approach to the arts and how Jewish culture has informed world culture, and trying to bring the idea of what Jewish music is into the 21st century by saying it's not just what was created in the 19th century and has now been celebrated and reconstructed as klezmer. It's like in the early 90s, a group of people in New York got together and said, well, whenever people talk about Jewish music, they're meaning klezmer. Well, is that really the same, or is that different? And something that Ben Goldberg said to me, who is from San Francisco, a great clarinet player, said, well, if jazz music can move from Jelly Roll Morton to Cecil Taylor in 40 years, why can't Jewish music do that? So we started thinking, well, what can Jewish music do? What is Jewish music? What makes something Jewish? I can answer your question in so many different ways. On a personal level, what being a Jew is to me, or how it informs my work. And as we began to kind of delve into all the possibilities of how a Jewish aesthetic or a Jewish sensibility or a Jewish sound or a feeling could be infused into music, we began to rediscover things in ourselves, and things just kind of grew from there. It started as basically a few people talking about something, and became something that was kind of exciting worldwide, where I'm getting tapes and letters from people in Australia or in Vienna or even in South Africa, Jews all over the world, not to stay on the Jew thing too long, but I was asked the question. There's Jews all over the world kind of connected with, with superstrings through the internet or whatever, and saying, well, what does it mean to be a Jew? What does it mean to be in the Gulut, in exile from Israel or from your home country? What does that really mean? How can we reconnect? How can we take our culture and bring it into a new century? And so I don't know whether I answered your question or not, but...
Not to belabor it, but I'm just curious, you talk about a Jewish aesthetic, and I'm just curious what that's come to mean to you.
Well, when I create music and I want to give it a Jewish feel, I use a major scale with a flat 2 or a minor scale with a sharp 4, and we got it, baby. It's basically a couple of scales, a couple of Semitic scales, manipulated in a certain way, can, create the surface of what we're talking about. But as you work with those scales for years and years, then things begin to get a little deeper. And I would say the Masada is an ensemble I've had now since '92 or something like that, that basically is trying to create a new idea of what Jewish music can be by putting different ideas and influences together. And the beginning tunes that I wrote for Masada, I think were really very primitive in a strange kind of way. We still perform some of them, but at that time I was taking phrases in different keys, using these scales and manipulated in different ways, and trying to find a way for them to work together in some organic way. And it was very much a matter of taking a phrase here and a phrase there and scratching this one out and then moving this around, and really like playing with building blocks to create one organic melody. When I wrote another 300 tunes 2 years ago or so, they just came out like I was just speaking a language I'd known all my life, because I'd been working with those initial 200 some odd tunes for 12 years and improvising on them in hundreds of concerts in a myriad of different ways, with incredible musicians with me on the stage that were also passionately exploring all these ideas. So it became second nature, and instead of little motives and little things that were grabbed and put together, what I got was an entire tune would come out in a matter of minutes, and I'd write it down, and then another one would just go to a different key on the keyboard, and a whole nother tune would go out complete in itself. And in 1 hour, I'd have like 10 tunes. I mean, after about 10 tunes, you're beginning to think, get exhilarated. After 6 tunes or so in a row that sound good, you kind of get high or something.
Not something
you know?
I've experienced.
I'm telling you, it's something very unusual.
Yeah.
But, you know, after like 6, 7 tunes, you start laughing like, man, this is getting crazy. Let's try another key. And you try another one. And then after about 10 tunes, then it's getting scary. Then you realize that you are not alone. You can't do something like that alone. That there's something else going on, clearly. And I think what's going on is tapping into that sensibility that maybe is so ineffable and inexplicable that to talk about it would be a big mistake. So let's take another question.